welcome to another installment of Metallic Reviews, the show where I take an honest look at the harder, heavier side of music and give it an honest rating. Today, we dive deep into the symphonic power metal world to examine an album by a band that's gone through some pretty turbulent years here lately. But now they have a new vocalist, they have a new album, they have some other new members. It's just a kind of a newness to this band right now. Yes, it's Xandria, and their latest release, The Wonder's Still Awaiting, which was dropped February 3rd on Napalm Records. Now, this just so happens to be a band that released two of my favorite albums of all time. 2012's Neverworld's End and 2014's Sacrificium were masterworks of symphonic power goodness. Their 2017 album, and by the by, that's their most recent release, Theater of Dimensions, was a bit of a letdown. Had some good stuff on it, but overall, just didn't really work for me. Can they punch themselves back to power metal glory even after a 6-year absence? Let's dive in and find out. Now, the first thing that jumps out at me before I even dive into the record is its length. This thing is a monster. It's an hour and 14 minutes long. So if you do choose to listen to this album, be prepared for this massive auditory investment. There are a few online reviews I've read that have criticized this element of the record, and I do think it is a fair point. After all, if you've ever watched my channel on a regular basis, you know that I can't stand it when these prog or these power metal bands don't know when to stop. They just keep noodling and noodling until it gets so boring that you want to rip your ears off. So again, I can see where some of these online critics are coming from. However, if a band gets the music right, these hour-plus albums can work in a lot of ways. Again, Sacrificium. That one was an hour and 5 minutes long, and each song was a masterpiece. Each one was better than the last. Now, replication of that is a very tall order, but it's obviously one the band are willing to undertake here. Sonically speaking, this holds definite comparisons to their earlier work. It's grandiose, it's extremely orchestral, it's catchy, it speaks to the classic music lover in many metal fans. The production is nice and shiny, which is exactly what you'd expect from a Xandria album. Mixer Jacob Hansen, who has worked with bands as disparate as Aborted and Volbeat, does an excellent job at placing each instrument. Nobody steps on anybody else, and everything sounds just as crisp and clear as it needs to. They don't really explore a ton of new ground, if any at all, but what they do very well. I will say, this is a safe album. This is a very safe album. Some might label it formulaic, but I do enjoy this formula in certain sizes. I'll get more into that here in a minute. But symphonic metal of this style has long clung to what it knows. It doesn't deviate from it a ton. It's a mix of pretty tracks, aggressive tracks, and a few ballads tossed in for good measure. I know ballad is a bad word in the metal world, but, you know. Lather, rinse, repeat. Normally, this would be enough to drive me mad, but in this case, I'll give it a pass because the music does take center stage. It elevates the vocal performances, driving each lyric home in this beautiful flurry of emotion and peace. It's not really a word you hear often associated with metal albums, but yeah, this one is, there's a lot of peaceable elements on here. Every now and then, it is nice to take a break from all the death and black metal fury and just get lost in one of these symphonic metal works. This, for the most part, is a perfect album for that. There are a few guests on here. Each one plays their role really well. Uilleann Piper, Johannes Schneifner, and whistle player, who goes by the stage name McAlby, are excellent additions to the band's already massive sound. Now, violinist Ali Storch, who's done work with Subway to Sally, assists on the strings very nicely, but the biggest guest here is Primal Fear's Rolf Schiepers, who provides guest vocals on the third track and does so very nicely. His kind of growls balance perfectly with the operatic female lead vocals. I find that very often these types of symphonic albums have a ton of guests on them. So far, none of them have rubbed me the wrong way, and I love the method that each is incorporated, and they all work together rather nicely. Now, the sheer length of the record definitely catches up towards the end. Like, this album, it could have had 3 or 4 songs just completely chopped off of it, and it would have been much better. The first half kind of gets itself over with rather quickly, and the songwriting is strong enough to where it doesn't bore or vaporize the listener's energy. Even the first part of the second half is the same way. Then you get down to songs like Paradise and Mirror of Time, and it just feels like the band just kept tacking more and more on. Again, they did not know when to quit. It's like they felt that if they didn't tack all this unnecessary stuff on, the album would have been incomplete in some way. But in their efforts to make a complete work, they lose the listener in a few ways. Probably the biggest instance, I would say, is in the song Mirror of Time. It's a 6-minute song that really should have been about a 3.5 to 4 minute song. For the first few minutes of the song, it's fine. It's not the best song on the record, but it's a solid track. Then there's like 2.5 to 3 minutes at the end where it's just this crazy vocalization against this songwriting that doesn't really know where it wants to go, and it doesn't work. Learn how to stop. That's my main message on this album. Learn to stop. You can stop the album. You do not have to create hour and 14-minute long opuses every single time. You can stop. But overall, Xandria have released an album that, well, honestly, it's not going to be a contender for Album of the Year. I'm just going to say that. It doesn't work on a full scale. There are songs on here that work. There are songs on here that I will definitely be coming back to. But my issue here is exactly the same as my issue with Theater of Dimensions. There was thought on here, and there was definite thought that a lot of stuff on here just had a lot of thought put into it. But then there was other stuff that didn't have thought put into it. In light of all that, The Wonders Still Awaiting gets a 3 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching. Click like. Please smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm really trying to get to 50 subs here. I got to tell you guys, I am really, really excited for next week because we're going to be diving into one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I really enjoy this band's work, and unlike some, I actually enjoy more of their recent catalog than their old stuff. Next time, we're going to be diving into In Flames' new album, Foregone. I hope you join me. You've been watching Metallic Reviews, where I give honest ratings to honest music. I will see y'all next time.